When detectives working on a case have exhausted all conventional lines of inquiry, they sometimes turn to the unconventional. It's not uncommon for them to use psychics. Officers on the Yorkshire Ripper inquiry used information from psychic Nella Jones, and American police investigating the Son of Sam serial killer case turned to Uri Geller. Tonight we continue the remarkable tale of perhaps the world's most successful psychic detective, Dixie Yetarian. This is the first time she's agreed to appear on television to tell her incredible story. As a young child, Dixie Yetarian was aware she had extraordinary powers.
Ashes, ashes, we all fall.
I knew things that I didn't know how I knew. Everyone was saying, "How did you know that? Where did you get that from? Who told you that?" And of course, no one had told me, and I just didn't know how I knew.
Dixie's premonitions were so accurate, her family believed she was possessed by the devil.
Come on in right now.
Be gone, Beelzebub.
They were constantly trying to exorcise the demons out of me.
Be gone from this child's innocence.
As she grew older and became a student at the University of California, Dixie's psychic gifts intensified. After one clairvoyant vision of a brutal murder, she even became a suspect. She remained under suspicion until the killers were caught.
Pretty soon the word was all over town that I was able to identify the people who had committed the homicide.
Michelle on line 2.
By the early 70s, Dixie was hosting her own psychic radio show. One day she took a call which was to change her life.
My name's Owen Etheridge.
Yes, hello, Owen. What can I do for you?
Well, it's my dad. He's been missing for over 3 days now, and nobody knows where he's at.
Now, what you need to do is bring in 1 or 2 personal, very personal items of your father's, like a watch or a ring of his.
I started having awarenesses just immediately. It's as though I was the person who was having the experience. The dream was so explicit, it just really terrified me.
Four days before Dixie's disturbing vision, neighbours of Owen Etheridge Sr. had reported him missing to the Lompoc Police Department.
Mr. Etheridge had not returned home the day before, and they were concerned about his safety and whereabouts.
There was nothing to lead us to believe that there was anything more than a missing person other than the pieces just didn't fit together.
We interviewed the son, Owen Etheridge, and things started not to jive. Stories were told that didn't correlate with other stories.
They called the boy Little Owen, and his dad was Owen. And he was a pretty good ball player. His dad, he had expectations of him someday being a professional ball player. And then when the boy would get out of that groove that his dad had for him, he didn't like that, you know.
We decided collectively to bring in Owen, the son, and speak with him a little more seriously about this.
Thanks for coming in, Owen.
It's okay. I don't see why you guys want to question me again, though. I've already told you everything already.
Well, Owen, I'm sure you understand that we have to...
There was this sixth sense that, hey, you know, this guy has something to do with it.
Daddy is missing, and we've got...
Too calm when your dad's up and gone.
Now, son, is there anything at all you might have forgotten to tell us?
Like I told you before, Mr. Ziegler, sir, I was in the family room. I saw my dad get into a car and drive off.
And you're sure you don't remember what the make of the car was, or who was in the car? What is it?
It just wasn't jiving. He didn't want to tell us anything. We could have been playing cards for what we were gaining.
Excuse me. Lieutenant Ramos, who's this?
Lieutenant, my name is Dixie Yetarian. I have a talk show on...
I spoke with Detective Mel Ramos. I had never met him before, so I didn't know what kind of reception I was going to have.
I had a call this morning from a young man who says that his father disappeared.
You have the boy's name?
Etheridge. Owen Etheridge, just like his father.
When she was speaking to me on the telephone, it was sort of a shock. Because I was in the middle of this interview with a criminal suspect for a murder case. So my mind really was concentrated upon what I'm going to say next to Owen until she interrupted. So it was like a bomb on me.
I believe that this young man has killed his father.
I think the reason I was able to be so effective with this case was that the father's energy was on the watch and ring and the boy's energy was on the watch and ring. I had the energy of both of them, so I was able to perceive a lot more than I would have in most cases that I work.
Over the phone, Dixie recounted to Mel Ramos the disturbing images she'd picked up from the missing man's watch and ring.
I knew that there had been a situation the night before in which he, as a typical teenager, decided to sneak his girlfriend into his bedroom. And I knew that his father had been extremely abusive with him.
I have had it with you, boy. And you, Missy. Get out of my house.
Why don't you just leave us the hell alone?
She's no good for you, son. You want to give up everything, all of this, for her?
The whole situation there was so vivid. It was as though I was living that experience.
Do you think I'm going to let you screw up everything we worked for? Huh?
The boy was just really, really abused. The feeling that I had with him, I'll never forget that. There was such a feeling of cold, icy cold that came over him. It was as though he just turned to steel. He took a rifle down from a rack on the wall and he shot his father. Then the perceptions changed from the boy to the father, and this is what concerned me because I was still having physical sensations, and I thought the father was still alive.
She felt he had terrific headache, which could have come from being shot in the head with a bullet, and that'd give you a good headache. She felt that he was out of town. She wasn't sure which direction, in my recollection, but about 15 miles out of town.
I knew that he was in a camper, on a green carpet. Then I knew that he was dragged some distance. And then I knew he was put under the, that he was buried in a shallow grave. It was so real to me that I could feel the dirt under the fingernails. When the boy tied something green around his neck, I could feel a sensation of choking. And I thought, oh my God, he's burying him alive, because I could feel all these sensations. I knew all of those things. It was just amazing to me. It was so real that it frightened me.
Holy cow. What do I do with this information? I know I'd probably be laughed at if I told the rest of the boys, hey, look what we got from clairvoyancy. But I took it seriously.
Thank you very much, Dixie. I
couldn't dismiss it. Probably was true. I didn't know. But we didn't have anything else. And I'd walk back into the office. That's when I said I would go with it 100%. So assume everything she told me was true and just lay it on to Owen and watch his reaction.
Have you got something to tell me, Owen? Have you got something to tell me right now?
No, I've already told you.
You have something to tell me. The clock's ticking, Owen. Talk to me. Talk to me.
Talk about what? I told you what I know.
That phone call you made to Dixie, Owen, I don't buy it. You lied to her just like you're lying to me. Smart move you thought puts me in the clear. No, son. I know you're lying. Tell me the truth. You shot your dad.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did, Owen. You shot your dad in the head. You shot your dad in the head from your bedroom window.
No, sir.
Yes, you did, son. You shot your dad in the head. You wrapped him in a sheet, put him in his own pickup truck, and you drove maybe, 15 miles out of town.
I guess he thought we must have been watching him. I don't know, the poor kid. Seemed like he had little beads of sweat starting to form on his forehead. In total amazement, as if My God, Lieutenant Amos knows everything I did.
You didn't even bury him, Owen. You just threw some dirt on him. He might still be alive, Owen. He might not be dead. You can help yourself, Owen. You can help yourself, or they'll be strapping you in the chair.
Okay. I'll take you to my dad.
Owen said, yeah, I'll take it to my dad. Well,
Lieutenant, what I felt and perceived.
and when Dixie gave me this information, that was like a giant key. If the key fit, we'd have opened the door. Well, the key did fit. And the door did open, that is. Owen said, yeah, I'll take it to my dad.
In her vision, Dixie Yetarian had perceived that Owen Etheridge had buried his father 15 miles out of town. Her accuracy was uncanny.
Upon Owen's direction, we drove east of town to a hilltop, which was 15.1 miles to be precise. That's rather strange for be that perfect or that close to the site.
All right, where is it, son?
It's right up there, sir.
Get the shovel.
She visioned Mr. Etheridge was buried just slightly underneath the surface. And there was a freshly dug mound of dirt on top of this hill, and he pointed to my father is there. Of course, when we found Mr. Etheridge, he was about 2 inches below the surface. His torso was just barely below ground. Dixie had mentioned on telephone that she visioned him having a green tie of some sort around his neck.
The shooter had tied a piece of green surveyor's tape in a bow tie around his dad's neck after he'd shot him.
From Dixie's information, it was a key to the case, and we solved it through her.
Young Owen Etheridge was found guilty of murder, but because he was a juvenile, only served 3 years. Within 5 years, he was dead, killed in a motorcycle accident while being chased by the police for a minor offense. 22 years later, Mel Ramos revisits the gravesite with Mark Landris, a member of his old investigating team.
That's where Mr. Etheridge was buried, I think. We'd have never found this place, huh? Never.
Oh, it wasn't for Dixie?
Dixie Yetarian's remarkable success in helping police crack the Etheridge case attracted law enforcement agencies around the country.
I was receiving calls from everywhere asking me to work and carrying a tremendously heavy caseload. There, at any given time, I would have as many as 30 cases.
Just like your handcuffs, your badge, your ID card, your gun, Dixie Yetarian became a tool. Wherever we was, and if we felt we needed, we could pick the phone up. And to the best of my knowledge, she could give you just as much information over the phone, many times.
But Dixie's successful collaboration with the police was to draw her deeper into danger.
I had a premonition that if I continued in law enforcement work, that I would not survive my 45th year.
Dixie's premonition was so disturbing, she abandoned homicide work and left California for Alaska, where she taught parapsychology at Anchorage University. But she retained some links with her previous work by assisting the Anchorage police.
The only work that I was willing to do was missing children. And I did do some crimes against children work there.
Inevitably, she got too close for comfort. One day, she received an anonymous letter.
This letter purported to come from a person who had inside information and told me that I must stop doing the crimes against children work. There was now a price on my head. I was going to be killed.
Hello, Dixie Yetarian.
Hello, Mrs. Yetarian. It's John Rush again. I'm glad you're in. Mrs. Yetarian, I really must have your help to find my son.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rush. I told you before I can't help you.
This man kept calling and saying that his wife and children were missing, and he was devastated. And I kept saying that I couldn't see him. I just knew I couldn't see him. I didn't feel good about him.
Hi.
Hi, I'm John Rush. I'm here to see your mother.
Oh, sure. Mom? Someone here to see you.
Shannon, I want you to go to the store and get some coffee.
$100? Mom, we've got coffee.
And take Kirk with you.
Mom, he's asleep.
When I saw the man, it was very clear what he was there for. I thought if I could just get her out, and then I could maybe fight him. I could do something, but I didn't feel that I could protect them as well as myself.
Now just get going.
I'm going. Regular or decaf?
What the hell is going on here?
It's okay, she's going. I don't care, Shannon, just go.
Lie down on the floor, please.
I'm not gonna lie down so you can kill me.
Just lie down on the floor.
From the moment that I knew that my life was threatened, I had a tremendous sense of calm. I wasn't frightened. I felt disassociated. As though we're watching a movie.
Instinctively, Dixie tried to protect herself, but the gunman overpowered her.
I was shot point blank in the head 3 times, in the mouth, put the gun to my mouth and shot me 3 times. He shot me here and here. You can't see, I had wonderful surgeons. And he cut my throat, and he pistol whipped me until the trigger housing was broken off the gun, and he stabbed me numerous times. These are all stab wounds. Then he took photographs of me. He needed this to be able to get paid for what he had done, and saw that I wasn't dead. That's when he cut my throat.
One of the first on the scene was Sergeant Joe Austin of Anchorage Police.
She put up the struggle of her life. If she hadn't fought this person, we wouldn't be sitting here talking a story about Dixie. She'd probably be dead.
Dixie was rushed to Providence Hospital, where the surgeons battled to save her.
She obviously had multiple gunshot wounds to the face, scalp, and both hands. She had a through and through laceration of her lip. In other words, it was cut all the way through into the mouth. She had a fracture of her jaw. She had fractures in around her orbit, or around the eye, which had caused one eye to almost be completely swollen shut because of the bleeding into that area. She also had some wounds to her scalp, back in the back of her head, and she had bullet holes in both her hands, which had broken some of the bones in her hands.
I saw my mom in the emergency room, and I told her, you know, that I loved her, and that if she had to leave me, that I understood.
She could have lost the sight in the eye just by a matter of millimeters, or just as easily been into the brain by a matter of millimeters, and basically good luck. There's no other way really to put it. Most people that are shot about the head this many times don't do quite so well.
Dixie had made a miraculous recovery, but she was still a marked woman. The Anchorage police were so concerned for her safety, they smuggled her out of the state and into the care of the Witness Protection Program.
She was scared, terrified. Had it happened to me, I would have certainly been scared. And I carried a gun.
Dixie and her daughter Shannon went into hiding. They were on the run, in fear for their lives.
I just packed a gun, a .44, and I figured, you know, it was either me or them, and so I'd use it if I had to.
But after 3 years, both Dixie and Shannon decided to come out of hiding, despite the risks.
I decided that I would rather live and face the danger than to not live and just be alive, because you can't really live in that state. You're just existing.
Dixie Yetarian has rebuilt her life. She's returned to California, to the small town of Oakhurst, but has no thoughts of retirement.
I do a lot of lectures, and I teach workshops, and I do a lot of symposiums and seminars. So I keep really busy. Got him! I'm really happy.
Dixie continues to work as a psychic, but has vetoed law enforcement work. Despite this, she's not out of danger.
I was contacted by a friend who works totally undercover, and he told me that any person who wanted to earn a few dollars could come and kill me. He told me that the exact words were, "If you stay off Main Street, you'll be okay." Now I feel pretty comfortable. I'm not going to do law enforcement work anymore, I guarantee you. I'm sorry if your child is missing. I will recommend other very credible people to work with you, but I won't do it. I won't risk my children's life. I won't risk my daughter again. I think life is experiences. When I leave this life, I'm certainly going to have lived it. It's not boring. Sure, it's worth it. We're here to live. Yeah. I wouldn't do any of it differently.
So that chapter in Dixie's life is over, and you don't need to be a clairvoyant to see why. Dixie still gets calls from the police asking her to help them with her psychic powers, but nowadays the answer is always no. Good night. Strange but true encounters next week. Our witnesses believe they know the answer to the big question.
I knew that the place that I was in or going to was a place where I would cease to exist.
Is there really life after death?
The fact that it seemed likely that I was going to die in a strange country, away from family and friends, was totally unimportant.
Also next week, can anyone explain the strange happenings on board Lincoln bomber RF-398?
Suddenly on the tape was this incredible bang. I said, my God! Play that again.
A plane with a life of its own.